Ever get hit with a big expense you knew was coming, but still weren't ready for? Like Christmas, a new set of tires. What if there was a way to prepare for those bills without derailing your budget or touching your emergency fund?
Really?
Really?
In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what sinking funds are, why you need them, and how to set them up right away. If you don't want to get caught off guard by a big expense again, make sure you watch this video till the end. What is a sinking fund? A sinking fund is money you set aside in advance for a known but irregular expense. These aren't surprises. They're the predictable things that still seem to sneak up on us every year. This will look like car maintenance, Christmas gifts, home maintenance, property tax, birthday parties, back to school shopping, vacations, and vet bills. The sinking fund is for larger expected expenses that don't happen monthly. They usually occur annually or over several years. Smaller expected expenses that don't occur monthly are small enough to be absorbed by your budget buffer room and planned in the month's budget. These smaller expenses don't require sinking funds. Examples would be driver's license renewal, passport renewal, Costco membership fee, credit card annual fees, or smaller holidays and events like Halloween or Canada Day. Most people should have enough wiggle room in their budget to pay for these expected expenses. Now, what about larger expenses that take several years to save up for and are more one-time major life milestones and usually are not reoccurring? I wouldn't really fit these expenses into sinking funds. They're considered long-term savings goals. This will look like saving for a down payment on a home, buying your dream car, a wedding, your children's education, or retirement. These goals are long-term and should be considered for investing. The appropriate asset for the goal will depend on the time horizon. If you want to learn more about financial goals, check out the video up here or look for the link in the video description below. So small expected expenses fit into the budget. Larger expected expenses are saved for using sinking funds, and long-term savings goals should be in investments. As for unexpected expenses like a windstorm blowing off your roof shingles, or there's a death in the family and you need funds for travel to help out with funeral costs, legal fees, and lost income, this is where the emergency fund comes in. Now, there's a bit of an argument for when to use sinking funds or emergency funds when certain expenses come up. Like if your 15-year-old car just gives out on you one day, was that really unexpected? Or if your 10-year-old washing machine gives out, was that really unexpected? Not really. You know everything has a life expectancy and won't last forever. So these really aren't emergencies. They are expected, which means they should come from your sinking funds. For me, I don't buy brand new cars. I buy depreciated used cars. So this may mean it will have a shorter life expectancy and require more maintenance and repairs. So what do? I have a car sinking fund that covers 3 situations: car maintenance, car repairs, and car replacement. This ensures I always have the funds for these expenses. Now let's say I use my car sinking fund to purchase a used car. My car sinking fund is now mostly depleted. I'm expecting that this car will last at least 5 years, but in the first year before my sinking fund is replenished, the motor gives out. In this situation, the funds to replace the motor or buy a new car comes from the emergency funds. In the end, it doesn't really matter where the money comes from as long as you have the money to cover the expenses. That's the point of having emergency funds and sinking funds. It's money set aside so when these expenses come up, you're not going to go over on your budget and you're not getting into debt, and your financial goals will continue to be on track. Where do you keep your sinking funds? The key is to keep your sinking funds separate from your everyday spending money so you don't accidentally spend it. The best account will be a high interest savings account, ideally one with the highest interest rate. Well, because we all know money loses its buying power due to inflation. Your savings account doesn't necessarily need to be at the same financial institution as your checking account. There are many ways to easily transfer money from one bank to another, so don't be worried of shopping around. Now let's say you have 6 different sinking funds. Does that mean you should have 6 different savings accounts? Not necessarily. You could, and then set up auto transfers so you can automatically transfer funds from your checking account to these savings accounts. But another option is savings accounts with subcategories, where you only have one savings account but many different subcategories or buckets. This way, you only need to deposit funds into one savings account and divide the money up in each subcategory. But if your bank doesn't allow this, you can still do this with one savings account and deposit all your sinking funds into it. You can get away with putting multiple sinking funds into one account without keeping track of each fund individually, but you'll need to make sure that you're depositing the right amount and make adjustments when necessary. That being said, it will be easier if you just keep track of the money allocation for each sinking fund. How to set up sinking funds. The first step to building sinking funds is creating a budget. If you don't know how to create a proper budget, check out the video up here or look for the link in the video description below. A budget will tell you how much you spend in each expense category every month. A budget will also tell you how much discretionary income you have every month, meaning extra income that doesn't get spent. At first, all your discretionary income goes towards your starter $2,000 emergency fund. Then, ideally, your discretionary income should go towards high interest debts. Once you have all that paid off, you can now divide your discretionary income between your other debts, building up your emergency fund, sinking funds, and long-term investment goals. Once you pay off other debts and finish building up your emergency fund, you can focus your extra income towards sinking funds and long-term investment goals. If you feel like you're not contributing enough to these funds, you'll need to make cuts to your budget or increase your income or do both. Sinking funds should take priority over investing, but keep in mind if you have a fully funded emergency fund, you could use that to cover an unexpected expense till you build up your sinking funds. The point is you don't want to invest first. What if there's a situation where you need the money and you need to sell your investments possibly at a loss in order to pay for an expense?
I am never going to financially recover from this.
Okay, now let's do an example of creating sinking funds. After making the budget, you know you have $1,000 a month of discretionary income. You have a small emergency fund of $4,000 and you have a car loan of $30,000 at 4% and a mortgage of $200,000 at 3%, but the monthly payments are already in your budget. The interest rates are low, so you don't bother making additional payments. Since you only have a small emergency fund, it would be less risky if you contribute more to building your emergency fund and building sinking funds than investing. So let's say $450 to emergency funds, $450 to sinking funds, and $100 to investing. Now think of all the sinking funds you want to create with $450. The first sinking fund you want to create is mandatory ones like your property taxes. Let's say your property taxes are $2,000 a year. This will mean you need to deposit $167 a month into this sinking fund. This will leave you with $283 a month. So $100 towards home maintenance and repairs, $100 towards car maintenance and repairs, and $83 towards Christmas. After a year of these sinking funds, you'll be able to make adjustments where needed. Let's take a closer look at the home maintenance and repairs sinking fund. You save up $1,200 a year for 4 years and you only needed to get some deck stain, call a plumber once for a clogged drain, a couple shovels, and buy a new lawnmower. This all came up to $800. So you have $4,000 left in your sinking fund. This is when you take care of the shingles that are due for replacement or the old washer and dryer that are barely hanging on. And if your home sinking funds manage to build up to a significant amount, you can either use those funds to do renovations or if you want to move to a new house. Once your sinking funds are in place, this will make sure you always have the funds needed and won't be caught off guard when a larger expense comes up. Sinking funds help reduce financial stress, prevent debt, help you stick to your budget, and help protect your emergency fund. Having sinking funds may seem like it reduces your opportunity costs and slows down your investments, but this is not the case. These expenses are guaranteed to happen, and all you're doing is organizing the funds beforehand. And doing so actually reduces your financial risks and can allow you to make riskier moves like starting a business, buying a rental property, or an all equity investment portfolio. But in the end, sinking funds are an underrated financial weapon that allows you to stay on track with your financial goals. Another sinking fund category some people have is income taxes, as many people need to pay in every year. If this sounds like you, maybe you should get a better understanding of withholding tax. And you can do that by watching the video on the right of the screen. See you there.